If building a building company was that easy, everyone would be successful. Unfortunately, the statistics will tell us that 50% of builders and general contractors go broke in the first 5 years. Something is wrong. We have to move the needle in a positive direction.
How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max Peterson, I'm your host, and I'm the CEO here at Smith & Sons Canada, and I'm also the ambitious founder of EliteBusinessAdvisory.com, where I specialise in customised coaching for contractors. Great to have you along or in the house, and if you're a first-time listener, I trust you're able to take something away that's of value that you can implement straight away, and of course, if you're a long-time listener, big love to you guys and girls as well. Righto. Look, today, with being January, I think it's important that we really, get into the habit of, there's different seasons throughout the year, physically. And of course, in business, I think there is too. And of course, the 1st of January is a great New Year's resolution type buzz. But more importantly, it's the beginning of quarter 1 for the year. And so, I've been chatting with, clients about how important it is to have a high level of clarity. When I start with, with clients in the EBA side of things, and franchises obviously as well, there is always that onboarding period of 60 to 90 days where I'm getting to know the operator, I'm getting to know the business, and I'm getting to watch how they interact with the business and the challenges that go along with it. But once there's a level of, let's say, maturity where I know, okay, it's now really serious, it's time to get down to business, I start really rolling the 90-day goals ahead of them, or asking them to define what's going to happen in the next 90 days, because nothing happens by accident, okay? It is by design, not by default. Now, if you've never heard me use that term, by design and not by default, then it might be a bit foreign. But what I don't want to be is, I certainly don't want to have a business that's just running by default, and I certainly don't want to really be associated with a company owner who is just happy to sort of, go along for the ride. Now, I would say that most businesses and most company owners probably don't intentionally go along for the ride, but that's why I call it by default, because without design, what happens is you automatically defer to default, okay? So, I think it's all about focus, and it's got to be this ongoing. We can't get lazy, but look, having been in the game now for 3.5 decades, there's lots of personalities inside, that experience. And, we tend to sort of just want to keep doing the same things because it is comfortable. And so what it takes is that initial, let's call it, decision to go, right, I'm going to bring about change, and of course the beginning of the year is good for that. The challenge then is like saying, well, I'm going to go and lose weight. Well, that's a decision that you've made, but then every day you've got choices to where, which will affect the result being achieved or not. And so as business owners, we've got to do much the same. We've made a decision to build a company or a successful business. And then what we have to do is make these micro decisions along the way. And it's that cumulative effect of those micro decisions that really do start to bring about change and make a difference in, every 90 days, and certainly over 12 months or 2 years. And certainly beyond that, I think there's that breaking in time of 12 months to 2 years where it's really a shakedown, and it's really for us to assess whether or not we're committed to doing what it takes, or whether we're just like, it's too hard. I'm really not committed to seeing a massive result, so I'm just going to go. But at least you understand where you're at. And I think sometimes, I guess as a business coach, the first, job for me is to bring awareness, to identify gaps and then bring awareness. And then it's up to the individual whether that business owner is willing to embrace the education. And of course, once he sees the education and where it fits, there's then the execution, and that's where the accountability side comes in. It's like, if you're part of, if you're on my roster as one of my clients and you're craving results but you're not doing the work, well, the activity is not mapping to the destination or that goal that you've set out. And so that now becomes a bit of an integrity issue because you're not being honest with yourself. Forget about me. But it's really important that you have some real good understanding. And so that's where we really start to lean on what is your focus. And, you know, the acronym inside of focus is follow one course until successful. And so, you know, for us, there's many aspects within our business and it's very difficult to focus on everything at once. And so, you know, I urge and I challenge my, you know, all those that are clients with me to really just pick one. You know, we can't fix everything. We can only really throw one starfish that's beached back into the ocean at a time. We can't do multiple, you know. And the main reason for that is because you're just an individual. You know, you may not have a massive team. It might be all on your shoulders. And, you know, being in the coaching fraternity a little bit, you know, I hear and see coaches and I understand why they do what they do. But, you know, the reason I guess I put this show out is that I'm trying to get guys from zero to say $750,000, hit that threshold, and then the world does open up a little bit, providing that you're working on a 28% or more margin, which is that in itself is a challenge. And so, you know, if building a building company was that easy, everyone would be successful. Unfortunately, the statistics will tell us that 50% of builders and general contractors go broke in the first 5 years. Something is wrong. We have to move the needle in a positive direction. And so if you're sitting there going, right, I'm going to be on the green side of that line rather than being on the red side of the line, and so green means you continue to be successful and red means you haven't made it, then what it's going to take is it's going to take awareness, education, and accountability. And ironically, you know, I won't say you don't need a coach for that because it's going to be a little tricky to be accountable to yourself, although that is a thing. But you need to be transparent. You need to be reporting to somebody. I've got, you know, in between, you know, the companies that I own, I've got 4 business partners. And I love to be accountable to those guys because accountability breeds happiness. And it really does develop a strong team because when you're being honest with your business partners, and they see you doing your best, nobody can really give you a hard time for not performing if things aren't going the right way. And I'm telling you, the relationships that you build with your business partners in the good times really do tie you over when the business gets a little challenging, okay? So accountability, you know, if you haven't got a business partner or someone that you can confide in, that's kind of where a business coach and mentor can step up and give you a real hand as it relates to maintaining your focus, whatever that is. Right, beginning of the year, by now you should have really nailed down what your next 12 months is going to look like. More importantly, probably that 2 to 5 years is really, you know, because there is only so much. I look at it based on my experience and go, most guys, it will take them 12 months to really get clarity on the whole range of departments within their business, the dynamics. When I bring, you know, that kind of awareness to the table, it takes a little while to really, you know, to really sink in. And so, you know, a lot around the marketing side is tricky. I've seen guys flounder a little bit because you get promised the world from these agencies and really they just take your money for a couple of months and then the builders get tired of it and they go somewhere else. And that really means it's a waste of time and money. So, you know, we've really got to watch the performance across the board when we're talking to agencies because that really, you know, you can solve anything with good sales, you know, really. And so, you know, but if you've got no opportunity to speak to, that's where you start moving across into the red zone and not a happy place to live and to dwell in. So, look, I think really, you know, your focus as the leader directly impacts your growth trajectory. And I think that it's critical that we maintain our composure. Being fairly emotional, it doesn't take much to get me, you know, passionate, let's say, and pumped up and friggin' fired up. And so, you know, I've always got to be regulating. But, you know, I think for me, especially when things are offensive, let's say, you know, I've got to be very mindful and understand that regulation is a massive part of my life because I don't mind a bit of confrontation. And so that's fine, but it does work against you. You know, it can be intimidating and it doesn't really go across well with the majority. So for me, you know, to be a good leader, I've got to maintain some composure. And no doubt If you're one of the folks on the other side who doesn't like confrontation, well, you've got to compose yourself too, because like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, you've got to have that. You've got to have that kind of candor. You've got to be able to face up to it and have real talk instead of just lollygagging and sugarcoating and thinking that these folks that are on your team are your mates or your buddies. And they can be, but you've got to keep it honest. You've got to keep it real between the parties, because, you know, I'm telling you, your team may have a tendency to take you for granted if you're not careful. Okay, so look, main points today as it relates to, you know, driving growth in your building company as a general contractor and builder. I'm going to chat with you about three things real quick, especially it's this time of the year, and we want to really, you know, I mean, I look outside and we've got no snow on the ground. It almost looks like a really early spring day or a late winter's day. And, you know, it seems that there's a bit of a buzz. You know, I get excited because I'm like, bring back the sunshine and the 40 degrees. So, you know, being the beginning of the year, I think it's important that we have a strategic vision. That's the first thing, and direction. And I think, you know, as a president and CEO of a corporate franchise group here in Canada, you know, I have got to avoid, you know, I would say that there's not much in the company that I don't have a really good understanding of. My challenge is that understanding and then being busy doing, what that does is it really removes, it can gut your momentum, because if I get tied up in things that I know I should be able to delegate or automate, that's really going to take away from growing, you know, developing the momentum in your business, in my business. So momentum is supremely hard to get, and it's easier to lose. And so we've got to be mindful that as we're doing the hard work to build momentum, that there's people in position, there's cash in position, there's opportunity in position. Our digital reputation is in position. So we're building this like a brick wall, you know, brick on top of brick on top of brick. So, you know, for you as the strategic oversight, the president who really just handles, you know, what happens, you know, as far as the vision is concerned, and then the chief executive officer, if that's you as well, then you're responsible for operations and how things are going in amongst all the departments within your company. So a couple of tips here for setting the strategic vision and direction. Define a clear long-term and short-term goals for your company. See, what I'm going to go through here is not rocket science. It's, you know, you may get some revelation here. You might go, wow, I've never thought about that. Okay. And then, you know, what you'll get is, you know, when you have that revealed to you, really what that information education then needs or requires is implementation. We've got to deploy that. Okay. So setting long-term goals, setting short-term goals, you know, and then really what we've got to do is to back that up. We've got to be able to have action plans to help us achieve that. So I talk to, you know, guys and gals, clients about what they want to achieve in the next 12 months, 2 years. And then we've got to start thinking about, okay, what am I doing this week to set me in the direction or to maintain the trajectory towards those goals. Okay. So it's not rocket science. The other thing you've got to do is you've got to align your team with the company's mission to ensure everyone works towards the same objectives. You know, and that's fine so long as you've got, you know, the right people on the bus, sitting in the right seats, behaving the right way. That is going to be your next challenge, because I've seen guys that have 3 and 4x their company in 18 months. They've now got an office, they've got team around them. And then I hear about complaints about the owner, you know, the guy who's operating the business, who's running it. And all of a sudden you just start to feel that there is separation and there is a little bit of discontent amongst the ranks. And so all of that hard work can be destroyed if the operator or the lead dog has an ego. And, you know, side note, obviously ego can be confused with confidence, and I want you to be confident because I know that I operate better when I'm confident. But, you know, ego really to me is just it's a byproduct of insecurity. You're trying to prove something to somebody and that person probably doesn't even care, to be honest. And so we've got to make sure that as business operators and leaders, because that is what we are, we've got to make sure that, we are behaving the right way on our own bus as the driver. You know, we can't expect other people, and this is what I've seen, guys, people in the business complain about the business owner, and then the business owner turns around and complains about the workers. And I'm just going, this whole thing's just shit. There's no saving this operation, because the guy out front, he thinks that his shit doesn't stink. And so therein lies the problem. So we've got to have that confidence and humility in equal measures. We've got to be able to look at our situation and go, you know what? I don't feel like I am the cause of this calamity. However, because I am the guy cutting the checks, I am ultimately responsible. And so that's where I separate, it's not my fault, Max. I'm like, okay, I understand. It isn't your fault. However, you are responsible. And the problem is, the business owners don't have the ability to respond. That's what responsibility is, your ability to respond. Like, I hope you get that, because I think too often business owners will blend those two and they'll call it one and the same, and it's not. It is absolutely not. Okay, I can have something go pear-shaped in my companies, and ultimately I could point the finger and go, you know what, it's XYZ dude's fault. Good. I'm glad I nailed that down, because you know what? It doesn't change the fact that I'm still responsible. So despite the emotion, despite the finger pointing, despite where the fault lies, I'm ultimately responsible. And I've got to figure out, what am I going to do about that? And I talk to my clients all the time about, hey, what is the 3 things that give you grief? And what are the things that you deal with on a weekly, daily, monthly basis that really drive you nuts? They are essentially gaps within your business that need to be closed up. Problem is, the gaps form off the back of something that's deep down is that there's a root cause to that that's never been addressed. And I'm telling you right now, it's either going to be marketing, it's either going to be people, or it's going to be systems, or it's going to be a few of, or it's going to be all of. That is really genuinely where it comes from. That's where everything can be identified between time, and team and money. There's a money issue because there's a people issue, or there's a systems issue. Okay. So, you're not going to get good people on your team staying forever unless you systemize the business. And, you've got to have marketing on point. None of this, I've got good word of mouth. You know what? If you've got great word of mouth, good. You should be doing organic stuff. If you're not, you're really, you're letting yourself down, because eventually, like right now, in the last 12 months, it's been slow. 2024 was pretty soft. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that everyone had it soft, because I know building companies, clients that have done pretty well to 2024, and they are set up to go in 2025, and they're going to do some really good work, and they're going to make some good money. Okay. So, I would encourage you that if you are humble and you have got the emotional maturity to look yourself in the mirror and go, you know what? Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I think it's this guy's fault, but despite that, I'm going to take responsibility. That's what it takes to be a successful visionary in the building company or any company life, because somebody has got to be the last line of defense. And I'm telling you, if you own the show, that is you, that is me. Right. We've got to stay proactive by anticipating industry trends and client needs. I think, look, I really desired to set a gold standard, which is why I got into business with my old mate here in Vernon and decided to run a building company. And it's funny, dealing with, obviously identifying industry trends, that's one thing, but identifying client needs, is, I think, a favorite pastime of mine. I was in the office, and we're shooting this on a Monday, and I was in the office yesterday, so it was Sunday, and as I do, spend half a day just catching up on bits and pieces. But then there was an inquiry in, and this lady sort of, had a bit of an urgent situation because she's wanting to Airbnb a room or something. And, she was sort of desperate to get a basement window looked at, and she didn't have much. She really wanted to do it ASAP and wasn't having any luck. And I hit her up on our system and see if she was available for a meeting at 3:00 yesterday. And so I grabbed my business partner. I said, mate, it's impromptu, but she's in need of somebody to do a job pretty quickly. I reckon this could be us. And so we went out there and chatted with her. And so, I'm not saying that, let your clients sort of just push you around and talk to you on Sunday afternoons, but it depends on where you're at. And maybe, look, I think being in the office on a Saturday, for me, because I know clients are either going to want to see me after hours, they're going to want to see me on weekends. Now, I probably won't do any meetings normally after noon on a Saturday because I did one at 3 o'clock on a Sunday. So, it's just up to you. Some guys, I've got some clients that just go, mate, I don't touch the business all weekend unless it's an emergency. And I'm like, fair, that's fine. But, when you love the game as much as I do, I'm like, I spend every minute of every day just trying to work out what else needs doing better. What next? What is the next thing that I'm improving inside of my business? And, that's why for guys like me, I get sucked into doing too much in the business instead of just working on the business because I just love it, at that level. So that's me as a strategic visionary and someone that really has a solid idea as far as direction as it relates to my portfolio of companies. Right, the second thing there, and this is where we start talking about humans, building and empowering the right team. So that's two parts. Building is one. So it's like putting it in place, okay? That's the first thing. So now you've got people on your bus in a seat, and then what we've got to then do is empower the right team. So that's the second point, building and empowering the right team. If you are trying to empower the wrong team, you will not get any longevity out of that. They might be somebody who maybe produces good results, but is a toxic personality. And, I've seen enough toxic personalities to pick them a mile away now. And I just know completely I'm wasting my time because I can't change the psychology of that human. And so, for me, in the recruitment side of things, whether I'm trying to sell master franchises, whether I'm trying to sell, construction franchises to builders and general contractors, whether I'm selling retail construction services to homeowners and whether I'm selling coaching services to builders, at the end of the day, I've got to be mindful that, there's only a certain personality is going to be able to do business with me. And so, it's great when I get to meet new builders that say, hey, Max, I love your stuff. I would want to know if I can, maybe have a chat with you about what's included in the whole coaching program. And I think, guys and gals, if you're in the retail business, which I'll assume most of you are, your website should do a lot of the heavy lifting like this podcast does for my coaching company. I don't advertise. I'm kind of like the builders that don't, do any advertising, although I would say at some level a podcast that's shooting 222 episodes has some level of advertising and promotion. You guys can get to know me and then 12 months later you'll give me a buzz. And I think, take a leaf out of that book and say, right, what am I doing where homeowners can get to know me and like me and trust me before they even talk to me? And so, when we're talking about, building the right team, we then really want to make sure that we have a good reputation in the marketplace. So, the challenge for me as a business owner is like, not only do I want to make my clients happy and get a really high level of satisfaction based on their experience, but I want to have people that are on my bus and in those seats that are behaving the right way and love to do that, which is really what it comes down to as company culture. And so, transferring the power is what empowerment is. It's like, right, it's a learn, do, teach approach. It's funny, I've got a kid who's 14 and he wants to earn some money. He's like, Dad, who do you know who needs somebody, as a bit of a slave? And, it's funny, I having 6 kids, it's really important that we as parents do the best we can. And, I said to the boy on Saturday, I said, well, my office needs cleaning. I said, if you want to take on the cleaning contract for the office, I'll get you to do it. And, so I threw some pretty good dime at him. And it's funny because immediately my head goes to, right, I'm going to send him a couple of videos on how you clean offices correctly. I'm going to have a bit of a checklist that he can run through to give himself a bit of an overview. And I'm going to have a Google Doc that he can go through and he can check his work that'll end up in my inbox. And so what I'm doing is I'm not just going to be, he's not going to learn just how to vacuum floors and mop and dust and all that sort of stuff. But the kid's going to start understanding the business system of cleaning. Like he's coming to work for me and he's going to start from a very young age, say 14, and he's going to really start to understand what a business system is like. And so for him, he'll just do what he's told because he's a good kid. But what I'll get to teach him in a year's time or 2 years' time is I'm like, you know what a system looks like because that's how you clean my office. You did this and this and this. This was the onboard. Then this was the accountability process. This was the checking process at the end of the job. And there's even I'm going to go down to Staples and get him a little invoice book because even though I'll probably give Spot him some cash for it, I'm going to get him to write me an invoice. So, I think guys and gals, I'm a very practical leader and a very practical business coach. And, it's really just spotting the areas in which you can really help those people grow. Okay. But I really am going to urge you that, you don't want to be investing in the wrong people. And I know that is going to hurt some people because they've got good folks working for them. It happens all the time. I've had it. I've had situations whereby, I had a great experience for 6 months, and then at the 6-month mark, something just triggered. And all of a sudden the relationship seemed to be a little bit distant. And I endured that relationship way longer than I should have. And so, guys, I'm speaking from personal experience as well. So, prioritize recruiting skilled professionals who align with your company's culture and goals. We've talked about that. Okay. You want to delegate effectively, but that's really only possible if you recruit well. If you delegate to the wrong person, and I've done that as well, seems like I've done everything wrong. That will bring down the performance of the team overall because in the eyes of the other team members, you've put the wrong guy in a position of authority. So be careful when you delegate. Invest in leadership development to cultivate a self-sustaining organization. So really what it comes down to, guys, you've got to have a recruitment process, you've got to have an onboarding process, you've got to have a good remuneration process, you've got to have a good personal growth and development improvement process, and you've got to have incentives. I think it's good to set goals, and we want to encourage our team to do that. And I'm really passionate about trying to set incentives. It's funny with talking about my kid cleaning the office. I might even dig him a back charge if he misses something, because I'll if he misses something that's blatant, then I'm going to make him hurt. Because as much as I want to incentivize, I'm not going to make it easy for him. Okay. And so, if he leaves something untidy or he's missed a room or whatever, then I'll ding him $20. I'll take it off of him. I'll say, mate, here's a back charge. I had to go and do that. And that was on your checklist and you didn't do it. And so it's really important that we have incentive programs. However, if you don't meet the goal, then the incentive goes away. So, guys, yeah, look, and I think to master the art of leadership in what we do, we've got to really grow ourselves. So self-improvement, leadership, right to my right here, there's 20% of the books that I've read hard copy and the rest are in the office, not to mention the audio books. Guys, you've got to have a hunger and desire for improvement, and it doesn't happen overnight, because I sit here as somebody who never felt like change was happening. But after now being in the industry for three and a half decades and looking back over the evolution and the phases and the different aspects that I've been involved in the industry, I'm telling you that you don't notice it, but, hey, your kids grow up, but you don't really, it just, all of a sudden it's 20 years and now they're big and stinky and you just think, how did that happen? So, be mindful that leadership development, both personally and corporately, is important. Final point, operational excellence and scalability. I covered this in one of the last episodes. Before you make your business or your program scalable, you've got to make it valuable. And so operational excellence and scalability, really that comes down to brand standards and SOPs. You've got to oversee the implementation of streamlined systems and processes to handle increased workload efficiently. Guys that are doing I've had guys doing $500,000 that have all of a sudden gone to 1.6, 1.8, and they don't grow with the business, okay? So they are now an inadequate leader to be able to then enforce, the processes and the systems to ensure that operational excellence is maintained. They don't have the emotional maturity to be the lead dog anymore, and all of a sudden they're getting overtaken by people who are on their team, which is embarrassing, okay? And I've seen it happen. Focus on consistent delivery of quality projects to build a strong reputation. Having having not spent the last 7 years in this town building a building company, but building a franchise organization in Canada, and now taking on the role of a general contractor or builder in this town, even I've got to start from the bottom and work my way up the ladder, because my name isn't out there because I was corporate office. I had franchisees out there. And so my name has got to get around, I being the operator. So, there's a couple of Google reviews over the last, 60 days. We've done a couple of little jobs and we've got a couple of 5-star reviews. So now when I start to deal with people, you're going to find that, you'll build a strong reputation on consistent delivery of quality service on projects. Now, I'm not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars of projects. It can be wherever you are. And I find it fairly straightforward. Now, if I go and do a $10,000 job for someone, I'm probably not going to invest $2,500 on a video testimonial. I will settle for a 5-star Google review. However, it's those techniques and comfortabilities, those things that you start to do second nature when you're working in the early days and you're beginning to develop the systems and your approaches. That is where you start to get the confidence to then move into the world of the 6-figure type projects and building and winning the trust of clients to then ask for if they would share their experience on video, and that's powerful. Okay. Monitor the key metrics like profitability, cash flow, and client satisfaction to guide your decision-making going forward. Guys, this is such a fluid situation running a building company. You've got to have eyes on everything. You've really got to have a real-time understanding of what's happening in your business, because if you do not, it'll be months down the track and it'll be too late, potentially. Okay? So, things like, monitoring your company's financials on a monthly basis minimum, looking at your project costs on a weekly basis, that really is going to give you the sleep at night factor. We can't build a business that we want if we don't develop these disciplines, okay? So you're going to start out as a white belt if you want to be a black belt. Nobody can short circuit that system, okay? You will pay your ignorant tax. Let me finish on this. You will pay your ignorance tax either it's trial and terror. You're going to pay for it one way or the other. You're either going to pay for it in time or you're going to pay for it in cash and try and learn from those that have gone before you, maybe like myself, who's got 3.5 decades in the biz. And, you as somebody in your 20s and 30s might be able to short circuit the growth period as quickly as you can. Now, you can't plant tomato seeds and then expect tomatoes the next day. It doesn't happen like that. But you certainly can turn a decade's worth of learning into a couple of years. That you can do. If you're disciplined, if you're consistent, if you do the work. I've had clients that just don't do the work. They show up week after week and there is no obvious progress. There is no diligence around doing the work, spending that 5, 7, 10 hours a week over and above operations to improve the systems within the business, okay? Right, so, it really, it confirms, monitoring the dynamics within the business, and we do that with our key activity metrics spreadsheet. We're looking at everything from our goal right through to, what our return on advertising spend is. And so that's really important. So it's not just about running the business, but it's about steering in the direction that it's got to go. So you've got to stop working in the business and you've got to start working on the business. If you're early days, yes, you're going to do a little bit of both. However, working on the business is easy enough if you haven't got too many jobs on. And this is really what helps you understand when it's time to jump off. Like I'm talking to people about, hey, I've got to put you on a waiting list. We can't get to you until the spring. We can't take new projects until mid-year. And I've had 2 people say to me, that's fine. We'll talk to you in early spring, mid-spring, or whatever the case is. And so, we want to make sure that we're really making those decisions, because here we are talking about building a digital reputation or building a strong reputation. The last thing you want to do then, because this is the opposite of having no leads. You have too many leads, you make promises that you can't keep, and now what you're doing is you're outrunning your supply line. The demand on you cannot handle. So what, for me, 1 or 2 client meetings a week maximum And then I maintain communications both with existing customers and past customers if there's something that we've got to take care of. I've got a client that had some damage that happened on one of her decks, and it's not a warranty issue; it's just a repair. But she come to us and said, "Hey, can you oversee the process?" Now, is that going to cost me some time to do that? Yeah. Is it going to cost me much time? Not much. But what we've got to have is a system on how we go about handling that as well. So look after your reputation. If you think, oh, this is great, people are coming to me and they've got me, they want me to do their work, and we get, our eyes get too big, and our lack of ability to deliver the product, what that does, it circles around and bites us in the ass. And then all of a sudden we go from having a great reputation to having a not so good reputation. And this is a hill and valley. If we have hills and valleys in our marketing, we're going to have hills and valleys in our work roster. Therefore, we're going to have hills and valleys in our cash flow. And then our company is just going to be one hill and one valley. It's going to be up, good, down, up, good. And there's no consistency. So that's what it takes. It takes a high level of consistency and focus and diligence around maintaining a strategic vision, making sure that you are building a team and empowering the right team, and that you always are looking for ways to improve or increase your operational excellence, and that supports your scalability so long as you've got good systems in place to go with it. Hit the bell. One of these drops every week. If you love what you hear, let me know in the comments. If you've got any questions, you can drop them there as well. And get across to Business for Builders VIP on Facebook. Answer the 3 questions. If you're a good sort, I'll let you in. And that's a great little community to just put some questions out there and have a chat about what's concerning you. And then, of course, if you'd love to chat with me about some coaching, get across to elitebusinessadvisory.com, hit the book a consultation button, and you'll be able to check my calendar out, and maybe we can catch up and just have a quick chat about your business, about your personal and your business goals, and see where to from there. Go build a kick-ass business. See you on the next episode. Cheers.